Welcome everyone to our free GRE Verbal webinar. Whether you're here for the first time or have been to one of our webinars before, thanks for joining us. My name is Andrew and I'm one of the Student Success Advisors here at Ready4. I consult with our students, connecting them with courses that best fit their needs, and I'm happy to be able to host today's webinar and give you all a chance to meet one of our talented instructors. So let's get started. A couple of things to know before we begin. First, you're all muted, so depending on where you are, anything you say out loud might look crazy to those people around you, but it's not going to get our attention. Instead, take a minute to find the question box. This is going to be an important tool for you today. Any questions you have about the content of today's lesson, the GRE in general, or about our courses, you can type them right into that question box and we'll either respond directly or during our Q&A session at the end. Also, when it's time for you to cast your vote, as we're doing in-class examples, you're going to type your answer right into that question box. We'll be sharing the slides, answer explanations, and a handout exploring our services at the end, so don't forget to download those as well. And finally, the session is being recorded, so be on the lookout for our follow-up email after class if you'd like to view the recording or the handouts, especially if you're tuning in now from a mobile device. Here's what we're going to cover today. I'll start by telling you a little about what we do here at Ready4. Then I'm going to pass things off so you can see one of our experts in action. While these free webinars aren't going to teach you everything you need to know for the exam, they provide a solid intro to the test and a chance to meet one of our instructors and get an idea of what our courses are like. I promise that whatever stage you're at in the GRE prep, you're going to take away some strategies that you can apply and continue to improve on throughout the rest of your practice. If you enjoy this session, stay to the end and I'll jump back on and provide some more information about our courses. We even have a special surprise to say thanks for being here. And that's going to be at the very end of the session. All right, a little about us. Ready4 was started out of MIT back in 2013, and our goal ever since has been to make test prep more affordable and accessible to students. That's why we offer a number of different prep options based on your needs and your budget as you prepare for the exam, ranging from our top-ranked practice tools designed to measure and adapt to your performance so they're better than any book, to our fully immersive prep courses, whether on demand or live, with the best instructors in the industry. We're providing a flexible, mobile-led learning experience to fit the needs of any student, regardless of your location or your background. But I'll talk more about the services that we offer at the end. I want to hand things over now so that we can begin our lesson. So today's session will be led by Eric. Eric holds degrees from Yale, Harvard, and MIT Sloan. He's incredibly engaging, which you're going to see today, but he also takes the success of his students very seriously. He's as much a cheerleader and a mentor as he is an instructor. Like all of our instructors here at Ready4, Eric scored in the 99th percentile on the GMAT, and he's taught over 1,000 students in the past 8+ years. You're going to learn that he really does love this stuff. Now I'm going to pass things over to Eric, but remember, if there's anything I can help you with, any questions at all, I'm right at the other end of that question box, all right? So good luck, everybody.
Okay, thank you very much, Andrew, and hello, everybody. I think if you can just type into the question box if you can see me and see my screen. Type in yes, or type in the place from which you're logging in. So great, looks like a few of you can see my screen. Some of you logging in from India, from Florida, from Flagstaff, Arizona. Another one from India. Well, welcome to all of you. It is great to see you here. It's wonderful to be with. Looking forward to doing a little GRE Verbal with you. So before we get started, I want to tell you that we're going to do GRE reading comprehension today. Now, most people, when they hear they're going to do some reading comprehension passages about subjects they don't care about and subjects that they've probably avoided in school, things like sociology and really hard science, etc., they fall asleep or they go away or they they throw their computer out the window and into the ocean. So please don't do any of that. Don't destroy your own property and don't go away. The reason people don't like reading comprehension is because it's boring and because it's hard. And it's meant to be boring, it's meant to be hard, and it's meant to be almost unreadable. So when you pick up an article or a newspaper and you're reading something that you're interested in, it's easy to read. It's something that you're enjoying, you're curious about the new information, you know, what happened to him, what's going on with right now. But you want to know what's happening. Not so with reading comprehension. The reading comprehension parts of the GRE are designed to slow you down and are designed to confuse you. If you read the reading comprehension passage in the same way that you try to read an article, it's going to be a very, very upsetting experience for you. Most test prep companies will try to teach you reading comprehension as if you are learning how to read a regular article. They will pretend that the reading comprehension is written in English. It's not written in English. It's written in a strange dialect that is similar to English, but is not English. Your job, something that Ready4 will teach you, is to your job is to decipher what's on the screen and put it in your own words, in plain language, so that you can answer the questions quickly, efficiently, and with some sense of excitement. So let's talk a little bit about the GRE writ large, and then let's dive in and talk a little bit more about reading comprehension specifically. Okay, so the GRE is almost 4 hours long. It costs $205. So you know what I always say about the cost is it's not cheap. Make sure you pay in advance for preparation. Take it seriously, take the right test prep, and take the test once. Don't pretend like you're going to take it 3 or 4 times over the course of a year. Study hard, prepare with the right test prep company, and then you're done after one time. That's the best way to do it. That's what I've always done. You can take the GRE any day but Sundays and holidays. The essay comes first, and you can switch around GRE sections. Not in any order, but in several permutations. Okay, so here are the sections of the GRE. You're going to have 2 essays. They're very formulaic. We will teach you exactly how to do the essays when you take a Ready4 course. Anything less than a 5 means you're not doing it right. You should get a 5 or a 6. A 5, a 5.5, or a 6, that's an acceptable score on the essay. If you're getting lower than that, you have not been taught correctly how to do these essays. They're very formulaic. You should write a certain sentence, and then you write another sentence with very specific kinds of words. You write a concluding sentence, and then you repeat 4 to 6 times. We'll teach you exactly how to do it when you take the course. The sections that are the most important are the verbal sections and the quantitative sections. So the verbal sections you have 20 questions, 30 minutes per section. So you have 1.5 minutes per question. Okay, you have to go fast. That's the point. I always say it's not a verbal test. It's not a math test. It's a timed test. The constrained amount of time that you have to do these questions is not a bug. It's a feature. It's the point of the test to make you go fast. So when you take the Ready4 course, we will train you on speed. We will teach you not just how to answer the question correctly, but how to answer the question quickly. Okay, so that's a little bit about the GRE structure, timing, and scoring. Just so you know, the GRE is a standardized test. The goal of the test maker is to force you into the middle. The goal of the test maker is to make you miss. They're not trying to help you get to the right answer. They're trying to misdirect you. So you need to study with someone who's mastered this. I've taken the GMAT 4 times, the GRE twice, 99th percentile every time. Once you have mastered it, once you've gotten a 99th percentile score, you don't just know the correct answers, you know how you get to the correct answers. I've taught more than 1,000 kids, as Andrew said, and I love it. You know, this is the thing that I could wake up at 4 in the morning and do. It's the thing that, you know, I have a class today. I'm in Los Angeles. It's 9:30 in the morning. I'm going to do another one at 8 o'clock tonight. I genuinely love standardized tests. It's the only thing that cannot be corrupted by fake news. The answer is the answer. I just love it. and I love teaching it. So it's a little weird. I will admit it's not normal, but somebody had to be this person, and I am that person, and lucky you, you get to study with that person. So it's a good thing. The point of this this chart is to show you that it's very hard to get in this far right light blue area. That's the area you want to be in. You want to be in the 90th percentile or above. That corresponds to a 162 on verbal, 164 on math and above. Okay, before we go into an insider look at the main idea questions, more about reading comprehension, I want to hear a little bit more from you. What specific things would you like to learn in today's webinar? Obviously, we have prepared slides, so I can't deviate too much from the lesson we've prepared, but I do want to answer your specific questions. So if you have any specific questions about what you would like to learn from me in the next 45 minutes or so, an hour or so, go ahead and type those in to the question box. Good. So how to improve the essay. Again, we're not going to deal with the essay so much today. We will teach it fully in the course. You'll learn exactly in about a half hour. You'll learn everything you need to know about the essay, and you'll learn how to ace the essay. It's really important that you don't bomb the essay. If you get a great score, you get a 90th percentile score on the test, and then you have a 3 or a 2 on the essay, that's going to look very suspicious to graduate schools, and they're not going to like it. So don't bomb the essay. Reading comprehension, we will go through very thoroughly today. Any other questions? Any other questions? Things you would like to learn today? Okay, good. How to really distinguish the main idea. Good. That's the #1 thing you need to understand when you read a reading comprehension passage is what the heck is this talking about? What is the point? How to select correct options from a question, then only ask about specific lines of the passage. Aha. So detail questions. We'll talk a little bit about detail questions today. Anything else? Anything else? Stuff you would like to learn or know? Anything about getting into Harvard or Yale or MIT or Stanford or any of the schools I've gotten into, or about grad school in general, anything. How much recommended time to spend reading a passage? Very good. We'll talk about that. Anything else? Does learning 3,500 words really matter as people generally say? No. So anything, if people tell you, oh, you have to know 8,000 words, you have to memorize these 2,000 words before you can take the test, hogwash, absolute poppycock. I'm using euphemisms for a word I cannot say because this is a family broadcast, but that is not correct. You need to have a facility with the English language. Obviously, the more vocabulary words you know, the better. You're not going to be as confused, but you're going to see a word or 2 or 10 on the GRE that you don't know. That is going to happen. It happened to me. I missed the word PELF. I did not know what P-E-L-F meant. It was on my GRE. I had no idea what it meant. I was very anxious about it. I was melting down a little bit that I was going to stumble and not get a great score because I missed a 4-letter word, PELF, but I missed it. It means a meager amount of wealth. a small amount of wealth. Now you know it won't be on your exam, but there will be some kind of word like that on your exam. You can't know all the words, okay? And knowing all the words doesn't mean you're going to get the questions right. The whole point of the test is to see how many questions you can get correct, not how many words you know. This is not a vocabulary test. This is a reasoning test. So I'm curious about who told you that very specific amount of words, but I bet they didn't get a 99th percentile score. If they did, great, but there's no specific number that you need to learn. The more you read, the better, but it's not a hard and fast number. Okay, let's dive in to the lesson. Are you ready? Let's do it. Okay, so today we're going to talk about reading comprehension passages. As I said, we're going to get familiar with how the reading comprehension works. We're going to learn how to differentiate between different types of passages. We're going to talk about main idea questions. We're going to talk about specific strategies for attacking the reading comprehension section. And we're going to talk about the common types of wrong answers, so you can identify traps and avoid those traps. Okay, so one of the most confusing parts of reading comprehension, it's not regular multiple choice question. Sometimes you're expecting the first kind, multiple choice, select one answer choice. Those exist, and those are, those are typical multiple choice questions. You'll know how to deal with those. But sometimes you'll get a multiple choice question where you select one or more answer choices. And sometimes you'll actually have to click on a sentence in the passage. So prepare for these three different question types, and just understand that they are all based on the same content. Your job as a reader, as a test taker, is to read and understand the passage and then deal with whatever question type comes. Okay? A GRE reading passage is going to present an overwhelming amount of information. That's the point. You cannot understand everything that's going on in the passage in an efficient amount of time, and you should not try to read every detail and understand everything on the GRE passage. One of the things that hurts my heart the most is when I have a student come out of the test and say, yeah, Eric, I only got a 155, but I learned this amazing thing about amoeba. It was so cool. If you're learning on the test, fine. But the point of the reading passage is not to get you to learn anything. The point of the reading passage is you have to understand enough to answer the questions correctly and then move on in a short amount of time. Okay? If you're sitting there learning about amoeba and you get a terrible score, that's not optimal. That's not what we're trying to do. Okay? A GRE reading passage often has a point of view. It will have a conclusion, or it will engage in analysis based on the information in the passage. Okay, so you'll have a persuasive passage. Sometimes you'll have an expository passage with just descriptive information. GRE reading passage may present multiple points of view. Okay, so that can increase the difficulty, and it is almost always written in a difficult or confusing way. That's the point. That's the point of the GRE. Okay, you have to study knowing that the GRE is not there to help you. The GRE is there to test you. And the best way to get through that is to have a guide who knows what they're doing, what he or she is doing on the test. Okay, outside knowledge of GRE topics generally hurts, not helps your chances. On my GRE, I had 4 questions on climate change. At the time, I was a climate negotiator for the US government stationed at the State Department. Okay? I had to forget everything I know about climate change. It was very hard, but it was very important because if I imported information that I knew into the passage, I wasn't answering questions on the passage anymore. And the job of the GRE is to test you on the passage. So you don't need to know anything really about the topics that the GRE writes reading comprehension passages about. You just need to be able to analyze the passages they give you. Okay, so there's some text about the Kuiper Belt at the bottom of the page, but just know that it's important that you don't think you have to know the knowledge, the subject matter of the reading comprehension passage before test day. Okay. How to read passages. Many GRE reading passages have a main idea question attached. That's usually the first question they ask you. What is this passage all about? Okay, as you're reading, you can ask yourself, why would someone write this passage? What is this passage really talking about? Okay, that's a question that is usually in the back of my mind as I read a GRE reading comprehension passage. Okay, when you're reading, aim to understand the passage well enough that you can briefly recap its main points. You don't have to remember everything. It helps to come up with your own mental summary of the passage's main idea. Some students benefit from a map of the passage. You can write down this, paragraph 1 is talking about, a description of the Kuiper Belt. Paragraph 2 is talking about how astronomers have studied the Kuiper Belt in the past, etc. Okay. You want to be able to answer a main idea question without having to reread the passage. That's important. That's important. Okay, any questions? Any questions so far? All right, I'm going to answer some of the questions that have been coming in. What's a good GRE verbal or quant score? A good GRE score is 90th percentile, okay? If you're in my class, if you take my lessons, I expect you to be in the top decile of students. Okay, we said earlier, GRE verbal 162, GRE quant 164. That's about that's a good score. If you're in the 160s, you're in good shape. Okay, if you're not in the 160s, you need to get your score up, or you're not going to be competitive at the top schools in the world. Okay, it varies by school. There are some schools that will take you with lower scores, but I always expect my students to be at the very top. There's no reason not to. Okay. All right. Any other questions right now? Let me stop for questions. Okay. All right. Well, let's move on then. Let's keep going. Okay. Even if the reading passage takes longer at first, working at getting a grasp of work at getting a grasp of what it's all about. Then work on speed. So when you're training, you should work first to understand what it's saying, and then you can get faster and faster as you practice. Okay, we'll teach you both. In the Ready For course, we will teach you how to understand the passage in a clear and comprehensive way, and then we will teach you how to do it more quickly and more quickly. Okay? What about all the detail questions? You don't need to remember every detail. You just need to be able to place that detail in the passage. So if it said, how many years ago did the Kuiper Belt form? I don't remember exactly, but I know where in the passage that was. And then I go back to roughly that point in the passage. If you can remember kind of what paragraph it was in, then you're in good shape. Okay? All right. So here are a couple examples of passages. Here's a short passage and a longer passage. Each of these passages will have 1 to 5 questions attached. The passages cover humanities, science, and social sciences because they know that science is, the hard sciences like chemistry and physics They know that is harder for more people. That's the subject you're going to see most frequently. You're going to see hard science passages. Don't freak out. You don't need to know anything about hard science. You just need to be able to understand the passage as it's written. Okay? You don't have to import your own knowledge from outside into the passage. Okay. Let's talk about this short passage. Okay? So the question is, what's the main idea? Okay, good to know. But here is how you read it. There are two ways to read it that are equally disastrous. I'm going to read them in sequence right now. So here is a disastrous way to read this passage. In recent years, many pet parakeets have died after developing seizures, and virtually all had unusually high levels of zinc, which can cause seizure disorders in their bloodstreams. The only way these caged birds could have encountered this can cause seizure disorders in their bloodstreams. The only way these caged birds. You see what happens? You're toast. You are gone. You are definitely going to miss the question. Not understanding anything. You're scanning it. You're stressed. You're sweating. You smell a little bit. It's bad. It's bad. Okay? The whole point of this is to comprehend what's going on, not to pass your eyes over the words. Okay? Here is an equally terrible way to read this passage. In recent years, parakeets, the only way these caged birds could have encountered heavy metals, feeble, zinc. These heavy metals cause permanent damage, zinc-coated feebles, frequency premature death among parakeets die. Okay, that's called skimming, and you don't understand anything. Nothing. You don't know what's going on. If I asked you, what did you just read? Tell me a story about it. What happens next? You would have no idea. You'd have to go back to the passage and read it over again. The whole point of reading comprehension on the GRE is to read and then comprehend. If you are doing anything else, you are doing it wrong. Okay, so here's how we teach it at Ready For. I am going to actually pull out my notepad and make notes as I go along, and I'm going to narrate every single word that goes through my head. I'm going to speak out loud. So let me grab my notepad, plug it in. I am excited about parakeets. Okay. Here we go. Let's make sure this works. My pen. Let's see if I can. Okay. All right. Here we go. In recent years, okay, so lately, so like let's just say like 2016, in that year, many pet parakeets, so Polly Cracker, it's a famous parrot, have died. Oh no. Parakeets have died after developing seizures. Oh, that's terrible. And virtually all had unusually high levels of zinc. Zinc! Grr, zinc, the bastard. The bastard chemical zinc. Zinc's causing the seizure. Wait a minute. Let's see what's happening with zinc, which can cause seizure disorders. Zinc can cause seizure disorders. Huh. So there are a lot of parakeets. They've died after developing seizures, and virtually all, not all, but virtually all, had a bunch of zinc in their system, and we know zinc can cause seizures. Oh, that's terrible. That's awful. The only way these caged birds, the parakeets, could have encountered this heavy metal, the zinc, this is talking about zinc, was through their feed bowls. Oh, we've been feeding them zinc the whole time. Oh, that's awful. Many of which have a galvanized coating largely composed of zinc. So if you don't know what galvanized, doesn't matter. If you don't know what galvanized means, you just need to know that the feed bowls have zinc in them. It's terrible. Since heavy metal exposure only causes permanent damage over an extended period of time. Uh-oh. What? Heavy metal damage only causes permanent damage over an extended period of time. A recall of the zinc bowls should dramatically reduce the frequency of premature death among parakeets. What? Wait a minute. That last sentence says, since you can only get permanent damage from zinc over a long period of time, snatching those bowls away is going to reduce the frequency of death among pet parakeets. Is that true? Well, it might be true. It might be true if you need to get to like 100 grams of zinc. And right now there are all these birds out there that are at like 99 grams of zinc, but they haven't eaten that last little bit of zinc. And so since we're going to recall those bowls right away, they're never going to get to that fatal dose. And so they're going to be fine. But I don't think that's how it works. I think if you have zinc in your system, you're going to have it in your system, and then you're still going to it's still going to be a lot of parakeet deaths. So I don't know if that last sentence makes a lot of sense. That's some very suspicious logic. Okay? And you should flag that right away. What is the main idea of this passage? What do you think the main idea of this passage is? What is the author trying to say? What does the author think? Go ahead and type in what you think the main idea of the passage is. Yes, zinc is causing death for parakeets. Sure. Yep. Zinc is a bad thing for the birds. Bad thing for the birds. So great answer. That's pretty much what the main idea is. If you can get that main idea, and you can get it after reading the passage once, you're going to be in good shape. Okay? So let's erase that and move forward. Okay, let's talk about a longer passage. Okay? So I'm going to start it off for you, and then I'm going to go away and let you finish it, and then type in the main idea when you have it. So again, I want you to read it in a way that is entertaining for you, in a way that is exciting, in a way that is engaging. So here's how I would start it. In Invisible Man, this is a book or film or something, Ralph Ellison does not reject the folk and oratorical traditions of Black culture in the United States. So he doesn't reject. So he's like, I'm going to accept, or I'm going to say, okay, folk and oratorical traditions of Black culture, I'm going to consider you in my book. Instead, he intertwines them with his narrative. So he accepts them, he uses them, even as he finds additional inspiration in more traditional Western literature. So he's like, Ralph Ellison is accepting all the folk and oratorical traditions, but he's also citing Ulysses or, Anna Karenina or something. Okay, so go ahead and read the rest of the passage and then type in what you think the main idea is. Okay, this is interactive. As soon as the first 2 people respond, I will come back and we will talk about it. So I'm going to take my face off the screen just for a minute or a minute and a half until 2 of you respond. Go. Okay, I have exactly 0 responses from you. So, so this is relatively long and difficult, but not impossible, and it's something that you should be able to get in about a minute. So if you can't, you really need to sign up for test preparation from someone who can help you parse this. So anybody, okay, so I have one answer, but it's wrong. So does anybody have any answer to what this is about? This is a mid-level passage. So there is like a whole there are 2 or 3 other levels above this that are harder. So if you're having trouble with this one, you're gonna have test prep is in your future. So okay, so no. Okay, so so nobody knows what it is. Here's the thing. It's talking about a book. It's talking about how this guy wrote a book. There's a critic who says this Ralph Ellison who wrote the book, he hasn't outgrown a bombastic and overwrought style, so he's just writing in this crappy style, and you know, he has talent, but he's doing some terrible stylistic things. But what's going on is that Ralph Ellison is intertwining Black culture and Western literature. He's intertwining these 2 things, and the critics think it's a bunch of gobbledygook. The critics, Prescott and Dunhart, they think that Ralph Ellison is off his rocker. They think that he all of this Black culture is, quote, merely incidental to the plot. They're just, quote, obscure railings. It's like not important at all. I think, to be honest, it sounds like the critics are a little bit racist as Ralph Ellison tries to do a really important thing. The author acknowledges that Ralph Ellison is doing a cool thing because he says the novel's layering of voices is no more undisciplined than Dostoevsky when they go off on their on their tangents as well. So he's talking about how this book is a cool book and its critics are racist, and Ralph Ellison's doing some really impressive stuff. That is the main idea of the passage. Okay, if that was hard, if that was unclear to you, you need to be reading more of these kinds of passages, and not just reading them. You need to be reading them with someone who can translate them into plain language. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, some of the answers that you guys gave, the passage discusses different views. That actually wasn't terrible. It's not bad. Discuss different views. That's okay. Discussion about 2 forms of writing. That's wrong. The explanation of a novel. No. Novel's narration from different people's points of view. It's too vague. Okay. That's not the main idea. If I said, you know, children are being, separated from their families at the U.S.-Mexico border, and people are up in arms about it, and this is a presidential policy, and it's based on a congressional, congressional action, that happened 20 years ago. And then I said, what's the main idea of what I'm talking about? And you said, a policy of the United States. It's not just vague, it's so vague it's wrong. Okay? What I was talking about was immigration, and specifically immigration at the US-Mexico border. So you have to be able to be specific. You have to know exactly what the passage is talking about. Okay? Vagueness, not gonna help you. Not gonna help you here. You really have to be able to understand, comprehend what the passage is all about. Okay, let's move. Okay, main idea questions. You have to identify why the author did something. What is the author's primary purpose or main concern? The correct answer will offer the best, not necessarily the ideal, summary of the passage. It may also be the best description of what the author's trying to do, the author's purpose. Best answer will apply to the whole passage, not just part of it. Okay. Read and map the passages necessary. Take notes. I'm a frequent note taker on reading comp. Read the main idea question stem. That's the actual question. Read it carefully. If you understood the passage, you'll already know the answer. You'll already have a sense of the answer. Okay, make a prediction of what the answer will be, and then go match the answer choices to that prediction. That's the best strategy. If you are reading the answer choices without having an idea on your own what the correct answer is, you are in some deep, deep trouble. Okay? You have to know on your own what the passage is about. The answer choices on the GRE are designed to make you miss. Do not go looking for the correct answer in the answer choices without having an idea of what you want on your own. Okay? So let's do this one together. Okay? Since you had a little bit of trouble with that previous passage, I'm going to do this one with you. Okay? So follow along as I translate this passage into plain English and get the answer in about 2.5 minutes. Okay? On the test, I would get it in 1.5 minutes, but let's do it slowly so that we can all go together. Since Earth's moon is not quite round, so the moon's not quite round. It's like a little oval or something. So it's not quite round like most other moons are. Cool. So most other moons are perfectly round, but not Earth's moon. Something must have occurred during its initial formation to result in its non-centered mass and highly varied topography. It's got a bunch of mountains. It's like not exactly a sphere. It's like maybe like a little, maybe like football shape. I don't know. They're saying that the moon is not quite round. It's got some stuff on it. Debates proliferate. There are a bunch of people talking about what sort of event might be responsible. Why is the moon so funky shaped? Some geologists say that the moon absorbed a smaller companion moon before its crust was fully formed. Gross. So it just absorbed some other moon in some freaky way, or like the other thing crashed into it, and so it's got a little bump. It's like, has this like other moon sticking out of it. Weird. Okay? Yet this scenario, while dramatic, is inconsistent. The author thinks it's not likely, with models that take into account the moon's mass and shape before multiple later impacts formed its several enormous craters. Blah, 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 blah. This scenario, the author does not think is very likely. More plausibly, more likely, complex gravitational interactions between the Earth and the moon. So the Earth is so attractive that it is attracting the moon. It's it's using its gravity on the moon. So complex gravitational interactions resulted in uneven cooling of the nascent satellite. So it was super hot at some point, and it cooled like a bad cookie. It's cooling in weird places at weird times. Actually, similar to some bad relationships I've had. It's cooling at the wrong places at the wrong times, and it's getting a little bumpy. Okay, following me? All right. Such a scenario would also call for a gradual reorientation of the moon's polar axis to its present angle from an original axis. Oh, so if it's cooling in a weird way, the axis of the moon is also going to get thrown off with a difference of about 36 degrees, a shift concurrent with its shape change. So this explanation, the complex gravitational interactions explanation, the author seems to like it a lot. There's uneven cooling involved, and there's some sort of reorientation of the axis. Cool. So the author of this passage is mainly focused on what? It's focused on how the moon got its weird shape. A, exploring various methodologies used to evaluate theories about the moon's shape and formation. That's a big word, but that just means methodology is like, well, did you use a telescope? Did you use your naked eye? Did you use a magnifying glass? That's not what it's talking about. It's talking about how the moon got its weird shape. So I'm going to use a method I call champion slot. Champion slot is I have to have one answer that is the best answer so far. And then I compare that to the next answer choice. So A is the best answer so far, but I don't like it. So, question mark. B, exploring some theories about the moon's shape and formation. Yeah, that seems right. It's certainly better than A. So out goes A. Now B is in the champion slot. C, determining the extent to which a second moon is responsible for the current moon's shape. Is that, you don't have to ask yourself, is that right or is that wrong? You only have to say, is that better or worse than B? Is C better or worse than B? Determining the extent to which a second moon is responsible versus exploring some theories. What do you think? Is C better or worse than B? Go ahead, type it in. Yes, you got it. It's worse. It is definitely worse. So B is still our champion. Now let's go to D. Resolving a debate about the existence of a shift in the moon's polar axis. Let's do B versus D. What is the main idea? Is it talking about the theories about the moon's shape and formation? Pretty much what I had pre-phrased, what I had said up front. Or is it resolving a debate about the existence of a shift in the polar axis? What do you think, B or D? B or D? Yep, B is better. You got it. You got it. So there goes D. Resolving a debate about the moon's shape prior to the formation of its craters. So now we have B versus E. And here's the question. Is it exploring some theories or is it resolving a debate about the moon's shape prior to the formation of its craters, or is it talking about the shape now? What do you think, B or E? Is it B or E? Yep, everyone is saying B, and I agree with you. I agree with you because it's not talking about the moon's shape prior to the formation of its craters. It's talking about the moon's shape now. The moon is. Something must have occurred, but it's talking about the shape now. And that's how you get it. And then you're done. And when you get to the end of the answer choices, you have an answer. No, oh, I always get it between two and I pick the wrong one, or oh, I get it between three and then I don't know what's happening. If you're saying that, you're not doing it systematically. You're asking the answer choices to please help you. And that's not how you get reading comprehension questions correct. You go in with an idea of what you want, and then you match the answer to what you have pre-phrased. Okay? Not hard when you do it systematically. All right, let's do another one. First, let's talk about wrong answer types. Every question type has a set of common wrong answers that appear alongside the correct answers, particularly distracting and obvious in main idea questions. So the ability to recognize common patterns in wrong answers can help you eliminate them with greater confidence. Here are some wrong answer types. Lack of direct support. That's, they make claims that just have no basis in fact or no basis in the passage. Out of scope, so if the passage didn't talk about it, it's not the right answer. So answers the wrong question, I think that is self-explanatory. It combines correct and incorrect information. If the answer choice is partly right, don't pick it. That's not what you want. You want an answer choice that is completely in every way correct. All right, go ahead and read this passage on your own. I'm going to give you, this is kind of interesting. I kind of like this passage. The question is, the author of the passage is primarily concerned with, So I want you to focus on the passage first and come up with your own idea of what the main idea is. So go ahead. I'm going to go away now. I'm going to take my picture down, and I'm going to give you 2 minutes to read this on your own, and then we're going to answer the question. Ready? Go. Okay, everybody, that was about 2 minutes. I'm just going to click through. This is the entire passage is still listed, written on the left side of your screen. But go ahead and come up with an idea, your own phrasing of what the author of the passage is primarily concerned with, and then go match it to one of the answer choices. So I'm going to go away again and go ahead and as soon as I get 2 responses, I'll come back. Okay, thank you, everybody. I'm gonna wait for at least one response that is correct. A lot of incorrect responses. Okay, still no correct responses. Okay. All right, so nobody got it right. Yeah, still nobody. Here's the thing, guys. These are middle of the road. One person. Yes, one person got it correct. Now we have 2. Okay, for the 2 of you who got E, thank you. For everyone who got A, I would say I would be disappointed in you if I had taught you. So if you're answering questions like this A after 1 or 2 ready for classes, then I'll be disappointed. But right now, I'll just say This is what the GRE does. It offers somewhat plausible answers that have a really crucial weakness, and it's your job to spot it. Okay, these answer choices are designed to make you miss. So answer choice A is the sucker choice. If you study on your own, you're gonna end up choosing a lot of things that are answer choice A. You get 0 points for answer choice A. The author of the passage is primarily concerned with explaining how a city's experience of a weather disaster. Definitely talked a lot about a city's experience of a weather disaster. There was definitely a weather disaster. There was definitely underground transit system. And it uses the word originated. Did the experience of a weather disaster originate the idea of an underground transit system? Prior to the natural disaster, New York City had considered building an underground. Okay, it's not ambiguous. It's not maybe it's A. The first sentence of the third paragraph said, before the disaster, New York had considered building an underground railway. A is definitely wrong. And you have to see the word originated. Okay? If you are trying to match words, oh, A has the words city and weather and underground. If you're playing the matching words game, you're in deep trouble. That is not the test. You're going to get a very poor score. All right? You have to comprehend what's going on, and you have to read the whole passage. Now, first sentence of paragraph 3 says, New York City was thinking about this way before. So A cannot be right, and A is super wrong. All right, B, contrasting the participation in subterranean travel with the experience of elevated railroad transportation. What about the weather disaster? That is not what the author is primarily concerned with. So discussing possible evidence of government corruption, that's not the main point. Resolving a dispute regarding the chronological order? No. I hope it's E. Discussing the impact of the snowstorm on urban development in certain 19th century American cities. That's a bit broad. I would have been happier if it had focused on New York and Boston. But E is not wrong. There is no part of E that is wrong, like originated is wrong. And E is the best answer choice we have. And E is correct. Okay? Do you understand why it has to be E? And do you understand why you need to see A and immediately cross it off? I'm being a little hard, but it's really important. That's the key to solving medium level reading comprehension questions. Okay, great. Let's move on. Let's do this last one. This is going to be the last example that we do. I want you to try it. I want you to get it right. I want you to think, gosh, who is the main protagonist of this passage? What is the author primarily concerned with? What does the author really care a lot about? Who does the author really care a lot about? All right, go ahead and try this one. I'll come back in a minute and a half. Go. Okay, so I'm getting some answers in. So far we have 2 answers and they are both correct. So who else wants to join the correct parade? Yes, we have one more. Okay, one more, excellent. Remember, who is the author most obsessed with? Great. All right, almost everybody getting it correct. All right. For those of you who answered B, great job. It is B. Why is it B? Because the author is primarily concerned with Frank Lloyd Wright. Okay, anything that does not mention Frank Lloyd Wright is going to be suspect. So is he contrasting the predominant styles of architecture in 2 eras? Is that what he's most concerned about? I think he's most concerned about Frank Lloyd Wright. And so A maybe, but between A and B, describing the unique characteristics of Frank Lloyd Wright's architectural style, I think that's certainly the primary thing going on in this passage. The passage doesn't oscillate between Frank Lloyd Wright, Prairie style, and Victorian style. It really focuses on Frank Lloyd Wright's style. So B beats A. Does the author advocate for increased prevalence of Frank Lloyd Wright? No, he does not. Detail the impacts of the Prairie School on later architectural movements, doesn't mention later movements at all. Does he describe the qualifications required for an architect to be considered innovative? No, he's really talking about Frank Lloyd Wright. Answer choice B is correct. For those of you who got it, very well done. Very well done. Okay, any questions on this one before we move on? Any questions? Okay, let's move on. Okay, here's a recap and takeaways of what we've done. First of all, the approach to GRE reading comprehension passages and main idea questions. The approach is consistent. It is rather simple, and once you have mastered it, you're going to be able to do any kind of reading comprehension question. GRE reading comprehension passages are designed to mimic graduate level texts, but mostly they're there to confuse you. If you are determined to read the text without translating it into plain language, you're going to have a very hard time on the GRE. If you are determined to read the text and read the answer choices without coming up with your own best answer choice, you're going to have a very hard time. The point of the passage is to be a little bit confusing. Your job is to make it simple. With Ready For, we will untangle all of the tangled parts of reading comprehension. We will teach you how to do this in a way that is easy, in a way that is a little bit fun, and in a way that engages you with this really complex text. Main idea questions can be easily dealt with using the process of elimination, the champion slot method, which we introduced today. Wrong answer types, there are 4 common wrong answer types. Lack of direct support, out of scope, wrong questions, combines correct and incorrect information. The correct answer choice will be completely correct, and it will be closest to the answer choice that you came up with on your own. Okay, we have some additional practice examples in the deck. We're not going to do them today. These are for you to do at home. Here is example 4, and here's example 5.